This is Horn Clinic for Pottag exercise 63. The purpose of selecting this exercise is to determine your articulation facility and agility. One of the primary goals you will need to do is to establish an efficient articulation motion with speed. Let's do some preliminary audition work. I'm going to set my metronome to a moderate tempo, and I'm going to select an eighth note subdivision. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit faster than this. And I recommend playing very short scale sets using the rhythm patterns that I'm going to show you. When you use this approach, I want you to think of using a slightly elevated articulation instead of thinking ta or to. I want you to think more D or even T. When you say T, the tongue slightly elevates halfway up the oral cavity and the tongue moves slightly forward, and you're only using the tip quarter-inch of your tongue. T-T, 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 as opposed to saying to-to, to-to, or ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta. If you do this, you'll see that there's a lot of motion when you go ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, but if you go T-T-T-T-T-T-T-T-T-T, it's a lot more forgiving, and it's a lot easier as well. So, I would first start on two-note repeated patterns. These are eighth notes. I would do these are note patterns that are sixteenths. So forth. Then I would go 3/16 notes, so that the third 16th note is right on the second click of the metronome. If you need a little extra time, I would do it every other beat, such as all right. Just to establish a very fast feel. Then fourths, or four notes. And then five notes. Then you can do repeated note patterns. And as you do this, get the feeling that the air is unstopping. The tongue is just slicing through a never-ending supply of wind. One of the problems that we have in acoustics in this particular exercise is what happens to short notes. Short notes have a tendency to sound softer than longer notes. So what we have to do is to make sure that the short notes have the same identity as far as tonal presence as the longer notes that go around it. For instance, the opening triplet will sound softer than the first eighth note. So we have to give a little bit more energy through the triplet. Just sort of give a little nudge through there. And then the 32nd again, a little bit more energy so that it doesn't get buried. And notice when I had the string of 30 seconds, I again gave a little bit more sonority to that. So we have the air that does that and not the tongue. I didn't tongue with any more diction or heaviness to do that. The tongue only creates diction. It should never create volume. It only creates diction or presence of the notes in the attack. To establish agility for this, practice this exercise softly. Oh yes, I did mean to identify this. That passage on the third measure, second line, third measure. I like to play that G, first finger. I think when you get full up to tempo, that will roll off a lot easier than trying to do both those notes open. Now, the next line down, where you have the G to the E flat, I would go ahead and do that normal because you have that fingering change anyway, and it's not an adjacent note. So forth. Now, where I like to eventually get this is around 100 or a little bit higher. So let's do that very light, soft approach. So forth. Let me go up a little higher. So, when I can play that agile, all I have to do then is just increase the energy that I use. I'm not going to make the tongue any more sluggish or any more articulate. I'm going to use that same approach, but I'm going to start using more energy in my wind. So forth like that. Just because I'm going to be playing a little stronger, here's what I unnecessarily hear from younger players. It's really hard staying on tempo when you're using a very stiff articulation. Light, agile tongue, D or a T will help you and it'll give the facility that you need. Let's listen to this in its entirety. I hope you've been able to glean some information and insight into these exercises, and I certainly wish you the best. And if you feel the inclination to contact me directly, I would appreciate that, and would love to have you come in for a visit sometime and check us out. Good luck and the best to you.